How do you close a client on the first call? You don't want to be dragging out the sales process forever. That's what we're going to be talking about today. And that comes actually from a recent client conversation that I had, by the way, which is a good thing to always take the cues for your content from conversations with clients or prospects. And this client onboarded quite recently, and he already had a sales call booked from a previous engagement. And so he wanted to get some quick advice because he didn't have time to watch our entire sales module, would have been far too much for him. And so he wanted to know what he can do to maximize the chances that he will close that client on the first sales call. And I sort of came up with these 5 elements that we're going to be discussing today. So I wanted to share them with you as well. Quick intro, my name is Michael Bohannes. I help consultants and B2B agency owners, B2B coaches and the like build client acquisition systems so that they don't have to be as dependent on referrals. And so one of the topics that, of course, we talk about a lot is not only how to book clients in the first place. That is usually the biggest problem that people have that we help them with. But also, of course, once they get to sales calls, how can they maximize the chances that they will convert right then and there? And of course, this very much depends on what you're selling and who you're selling it to. If you're selling, giant consulting packages to huge companies, it's going to take a couple of months, and it's practically impossible to shorten that to a couple of days. But when, like in the case of my client, you're selling a relatively low ticket retainer, let's say $2,000 a month, there's really no reason why this should be a dragged out long process. And not everybody who will come on a call with you is actually ready to take action immediately, but you can find that out in the investigation process of the call before pitching them. Right? That's very key, and we're going to talk about that. Okay, so what are the things that you can do to maximize the chances you will close them on the first sales call? Number 1, study them beforehand. Like, look at their profile. You don't have to study them for a long time, but make sure that you look at their profile, and based on what you see, profile, website, maybe any other sources that they have, make a couple of assumptions. Now, I know that this is not very popular. Most people will tell you to not make assumptions, go with a completely open mind. The thing is, when you're relatively new to selling to strangers, you want to make at least a couple of assumptions, jot them down, and hold them loosely. Definitely don't share your assumptions with your client, with your prospect, but it really helps you in anticipating possible objections that they might have, wondering what could they be bringing up that you need to kind of sharpen your value proposition on, right? Like, what are they likely to want from you? And this helps you to not be stumped by something that they say. Right? Very often I find my clients have the biggest problems, and that also reduces their credibility towards their prospects, is when the prospect says something and you don't have a good answer to that. Now, of course, you cannot anticipate everything, but the more of these calls you do, the more will these assumptions that you make about them in the beginning help you to anticipate those situations and to be able to deflect them when it happens. So in the case of my client, he's selling video content marketing services. He helps you create a month's worth of content within 4 to 6 hours of work per month. And so as he was approaching his client, we were like looking at that prospective client, and we're looking, okay, what is he most likely to want? For example, he already does video, that prospect of his. He already does video. So he will not necessarily need like how-tos and how to speak in front of the camera because he was quite a good speaker. Most likely what he will need help with is like consistency, suggestions for topics, and to basically get into the volume game, to create a lot of volume. All of those are things that you can anticipate and then be prepared for it, that this is what you will focus your pitch on. Again, very important to hold your assumptions loosely. They always could come at you with a curveball, but having some of this research done will help you to not be stumped by something that they say. Number 2, frame the conversation in the way how you want it to run. Effectively, you dictate the agenda. Many people, especially when they're early on in their sales journey, are just very shy. They want to be very friendly. They want to be liked, right? It's not a good idea to want to be liked on a sales call, because if they like you, they are sort of on the same level with you on the sales call. And you want on a sales call, you want to be slightly above them in terms of situational dominance. You want to guide the call. You want to be somebody worth aspiring towards. Now, that doesn't mean they could be way richer than you. It's just that in this area that you are selling to them, you are the authority. Just like if an investment banker goes to see a doctor, right? In that moment, the doctor has situational authority, and there the investment banker, although he's maybe worth 1,000 times vis-a-vis the doctor, is listening to the doctor and is submitting to his authority. That is what you want to achieve in the sales call, situational authority. And you achieve that by, after 1 or 2 minutes of friendly chit chat, you say, all right, so John, the way this call will go is I'm going to ask you a couple of questions about your business, and then I'll tell you if I believe that we can help you. I'll tell you what we do. And if you like that, then we can start working together. Simple enough, right? And when they say, yes, I agree, then you have established the frame of the call. And the thing is, if they then become slightly too dominant, right? If they start, for example, asking you questions, it happens sometimes that after 15 minutes of you asking them questions, they say, yeah, okay, fine, but tell me what it is that you do and so on. You say, sorry, John, we agreed that I would like to ask you a couple of questions. I still need to understand a bit more about your business, if that's okay with you. And then I will tell you, I'll be very happy to tell you what it is that we do. And that's how you can always bring it down to the agenda, because he or she agreed to that. You want to always maintain this kind of situational dominance. And it means that sometimes you may have to say, okay, sorry, I think this is just not, we're not having the right rapport here. And I mentioned that it's really important that I first understand how your business operates before I can tell you what it is that we do. So if that's not okay with you, then I think it would be better to end the call here. Politely, respectfully, but that is how you establish dominance. And doing that, especially early on as you sort of start with your sales journey, it's a very good idea. So establish the frame of the conversation, say what will be the outcome, be the alpha in the room. And that way you can also, by saying what the outcome will be, if they have agreed to, once I tell you what it is that we do, you can decide if you want to be part of it or not. You've established that in this call, we will be making that decision. That is the key thing, right? At this point, you are telling them, during this call, we're going to make the decision, not a month from now when you will have thought about it, okay? Because remember, the whole point of this is that we say we want to maximize the chances that they will say yes to you on the very first call. Point number 3, respect the structure of investigation, pitch, and then Q&A and objection handling, right? Those are 3 parts to the call. The thing that I see many people when they're inexperienced with sales calls do is that they start pitching too soon. For example, we've recently had a call where one of the people who sells on my behalf, somebody who just recently started selling for me, and she pitched the person after 10 minutes of them talking, and it was just way too early. She didn't fully understand his business. She was actually a little bit confused about the business, and there was just no way that she would be successfully pitching to him at this point. And the problem was a little bit that it was not really clear what it is that they do, and it just sounded too good to be true. It was like a marketing agency of, like the case of, well, somebody in a dark alley opens their trench coat and tells you, I'm selling everything from lollipops to uranium, right? Something like that. And it was just way too weird for a marketing agency to sell, yeah, we give you SEO, we can give you Facebook ads, we can give you TikTok organic. Dude, like that's just way too broad, far too many topics for one agency to handle. You want to be specialized. And yet this person had successfully sold to 4 clients. And that was a bit of a conundrum that you just need to resolve. You need to understand why that happened. It's just weird that somebody with this approach, with the trench coat approach, would have been so successful. It's just really strange. And so you need to understand that. You need to fully understand, were these clients maybe like past connections who you already knew, so this is not really replicable, right? How will you replicate something that a couple of close friends of yours have bought from you, and now you have to go out into the wild, into the open market? It's just not going to work. You have to know this before you can make a recommendation to them. And so that can sometimes take 30 minutes. Sometimes it can take even longer. I've had calls where even after 50 minutes, I didn't fully understand what it is that they do. I did not fully understand the problem that I could help them solve. And I said, listen, we can continue this, but until you really honestly tell me what it is that I can help with, and how exactly you make money and where's the added value that I can bring, I just don't think that I can present you with a good conscience my offer. And then we sort of ended it. It sort of fizzled out because there was just no good rapport. It was always them holding back. And so the first part of the conversation needs to be the investigation. You need to fully understand what it is that they do, because that also builds a lot of rapport with them. People really feel much more connected to you when they feel understood. This is what most people don't get. Rapport does not come from you talking about their kids or talking about your mutual golfing hobby, right? That's just the superficial rapport. It's not really the thing. But it is when you get somebody on a sales call to do, yes, exactly, you got that right. That is the best kind of rapport, because people want to be understood. I don't know who that was. Recently, I found somebody on LinkedIn who said something really true. It's much more important that somebody feels understood rather than buying into your solution. If they feel that you truly get them, it's going to be way easier to sell them almost anything. And so this part, the 30-minute investigation, is arguably one of the most crucial parts of the conversation. Then comes the pitch. Once you've understood that they're indeed in a situation where you can help them, then you give them a quick pitch, right? It doesn't have to be long. It's mainly needs to sort of frame the discussion. You say, this is what we do. This is how we help people. Do you have any questions? Because you don't want to be telling them irrelevant stuff that they might not be interested in. You just want them to pull the information out of you. And so you just quickly pitch them, and then comes the Q&A. And the Q&A very often gets into objection handling, because after they just clarified your offer, they have now fully understood what it is that you do. That usually doesn't take very long. It's like maybe 10, 15 minutes. Now comes the time to objection handle. And those last however long they are, from 1 minute to 15 minutes, that is the last part of the conversation. You need to leave sufficient room for that. Okay, so that was point number 3. Let's look at point number 4, and that is so important. It still relates to the investigation phase, but it's so important it deserves its own point, and that is look for reasons why they should not work with you. During the investigation phase, ask them questions where you sort of want to tell them something like, well, it sounds like you're doing pretty well on your own. I don't think you need me, right? Because you want them ideally to say, no, but I'm struggling with XYZ, right? So that they do want to need you. They should ideally state what it is exactly that they want from you, because there's many calls are like that, where people have a little bit of an ego. They start telling you of how successful they are and what great things they have done. And so when you say, well, this all sounds really good, John, I think you might not even need me. Why are we here? Right? It's usually quite disarming. People smile and then they go, well, it's still not good enough, and so on. And then they get into the frame of the conversation changes somewhat. And even doing that very honestly and genuinely, it's not a trick. Sometimes you can use it as a bit of a rhetorical trick, especially with people who you see are very ego-driven. But very often it's a genuine thing, because you want them really to be successful. And if they actually have everything that they need, then you telling them that they might not need your support builds a lot of trust. And ultimately, you will find out that they need help in some area. So for example, my client who was about to have that sales call, he, as we said, is selling video content marketing. And he saw that the prospect already was doing successfully video marketing. It's just that he told him on the DM conversation that he did not like his editing. And so the conversation should go in a direction where my client tells his prospect, listen, if all you have a problem with is editing, I would be too expensive. I'm a content strategist. I'm a video marketing strategist, and I help you with kind of planning how we can grow your audience. And of course, I help you with the topics as well. But if it's just the editing that you have problems with, just get another better editor, right? Pay them a little bit more, you'll find better ones, and so on. So that is what my client should have told his prospect. And he did tell him after I advised him to do that. But it's all about finding out why they should not work with you and what cheaper options they have available. Another example is sometimes I encounter prospects who are doing really well with their outbound. They do cold email, they're booking calls. They just need a little bit of help on content. And I'm saying, honestly, I'm not sure if signing up with us would be the best thing for you, because we're quite expensive and we help you with the overall client acquisition. You have everything nailed down. You have your avatar. You just need to get started with content. And there, if you want to work with me, we can do just a one-off session to just give you the basics. But you just doing this, taking some of the basics, you can do this on your own. You don't really need us. And that builds so much trust during the investigation phase that it really maximizes your chances that you will close on the first call. You will also have more people where you then disqualify them, right? Already during the investigation phase, you arrive at the conclusion that, hey, we're just not a fit. But that is great. That is what you want. You want to polarize. You simply don't want to be in that situation of you believing that they are a great fit with you, making them an offer, and then they say no, and then they stall because it's a waste of time. It's a waste of time, waste of energy. That is what you want to avoid. If on the 30 minutes, you realize, in the first 30 minutes, if you realize, hey, we're not a fit, perfect, bye, that's okay. Then there's no chasing after them and all this ignominious stuff that you usually have to do when you are nurturing a lead. So look for reasons why they shouldn't work with you. And then final point, objection handle relentlessly. Once you've gotten to the point where you've understood their situation, you've given them a pitch, they understand how your solution works, and then they come with all the excuses why they cannot do it, that is now where you have to remain on the ball, remain strongly focused on objection handling. And this is probably the hardest part, and it's going to take you time to develop that. And it's really good. One thing that has helped me a lot is to collect objections that people throw at me. And then later on, if I didn't come up with the right response in the moment, to then kind of think about it, what would be the best response for it? And then to memorize that approach, memorize those sentences and throw it back at them, and to question their choice of words. Like when you say, think about it, what do you mean by that? Or when you say, I need to think about it, John, what I usually hear is from people is that they are not sure if they can trust me, they can trust the system, or they don't trust themselves. Which one is it with you? Like getting truly to understand where they are, because you want to at least dismantle all the layers of BS that they are putting in front of it, and you want to understand the real reason why they don't want to sign up. The goal is that at that point, you arrive at a pretty clear yes or no, that you don't let it drag out, that you don't say, yeah, let's follow up in 2 weeks again. And so then you have to chase after them. That's the goal. During objection handling, you can even risk being disliked. You cannot really be too persistent in this situation. Sure, you could be so persistent that you piss them off, but then are they really likely to have signed up with you if you hadn't been that persistent? I just don't find that to be realistic. Usually people respect it when you are persistent. And so I would say rather try to push yourself to not let them go. And once you've arrived at the point where you know that they would benefit from working with you, stay on the ball. All right, that was it. Thank you very much. If you like this video, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel. Don't hit the notification bell. It's just going to distract you. It's not worth it, but just sometimes check in and see if there's any new videos uploaded. And until the next time I see you, maybe you want to click the link in the description if you want us to help you build client acquisition systems. But if not, no problem. You can just stay subscribed, and hopefully I'm adding some value to you. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll speak to you soon.